Sisi ndio wazee wa majanga.
Wazungu sema it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Rudingi, haikeshe.
Exactly. Good night.
Same to you.
The same to you too.
Right, welcome back now to the last part of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done looking at matters about health, and now we want to shift gears and look at what is happening surrounding the CBC transition post-election. That is what we are discussing this morning, and this came about after we saw the Kenya Kwanza Brigade trying to mention issue about scrapping of CBC if they get to be elected, and they promised that they will look into it and some of the few holes that have been poked into it, if there is a need be, then they will have to scrap it off. That's why we are asking CBC transition post-election, how is it going to be? And also we'll be looking at some of the few details that are coming out from it. We've had the CS Magoha himself promising and saying that things are up and running in relation to the transition. Classrooms have been constructed countrywide, and he said yesterday, listening to him keenly, he said that by the end of this year, then things will be okay, and the smooth transitioning over from the junior secondary to something like that will be something successful. That is what we also look into, together with my second guest here in studio, Mr. ELISHA MWANGO, who has just told me is now the acting chair at the Kenya Private School Association, and he's with me in studio here. But before I even bring him on board, I would like to extend an invite to you on the same. Share your thoughts, particularly parents, teachers, and pupils as well. You can do so via the number you see below your screen, or you can also move to all our social media platforms. We're live on Facebook and YouTube as well. You can share your comment on the comment section, and we will be also glad to hear and sample your views as we get along with the program. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Right. I wonder you put in a red tie today. You're supposed to have it yesterday.
Very belated Valentine's.
All right, very true. I understand.
Yeah.
But welcome, sir. And it's
thank
been
you.
a long time since I had you on show.
Yeah, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And you're not new here, but you'll have to just a brief introduction.
Exactly.
In your capacity now as the acting chair. I think, how is the seat so far? Do you feel it?
It's good. It's good, yeah, because I've been an executive official in the SEM as a treasurer. So now I'm a treasurer and the acting chair at the same time.
Right, very well. Of course. And we must as well congratulate you for that position. But let's begin from here. Kenya Kwanza says it wants to scrap off CBC if they get elected.
Yes.
And Magoha is saying you should not politicize CBC and you should not play politics with our kids.
Exactly.
What is this?
Well, you know, looking at what the Kenya Kwanza is saying, I think it's more on the political line than what Magoha is saying. Could be the Kenya Kwanza politicians have a point, but now they need to be very specific, away from politics. What is that is wrong with the competence-based curriculum? Rather than just say when we get into power, we shall scrap it off. They should just point out. Of course, there might be some weaknesses here and there. You know, any new curriculum being rolled out, there could be some teething problems. But they should point out that there are these issues that really warrant scrapping off of this system in as much as it has reached this far in its implementation.
Good. And from what people are also saying, Mwalimu here, they feel like Jubilee administration may want to take some bit of credit, saying that we did change the curriculum. And according to the much noise that we are hearing here, and the ALPRO and the JITAs also inside the CBC, it seems that most people do not agree to it, and they feel like it's been forced and it's been, rolled out, so to speak, like forcefully inside. And they're saying that for that reason, they may have no choice but to scrap it off. Do you think they make some bit of sense there?
Well, let me take you back to the tenets of making a curriculum. Any curriculum, it's usually started with the government. The government is the one that initiates the process of curriculum reform or curriculum review as the main stakeholders. Then they are supposed to involve others, like the religious leaders. They involve every other person, because education system affects every single person in the society.
Right.
And therefore, the Jubilee administration, by saying that they bring the new curriculum, it was something good because objectively they were saying, we want this 844 system has been long overdue. And right now, the society has changed. There are so many needs and aspirations that our society needs at the moment. And therefore, we want to align it with the current needs, which is very, very perfect.
Right.
But now, it depends on what is this new thing that was being brought and whose inputs were brought into these new things. Otherwise, the change would be brought, but if it does not reflect the ideal society. And when I talk of the ideal society, we are talking about how does it inculcate values, how does it inculcate attitude, skills, and knowledge that are actually in tandem with now in the 21st century skills that are required.
Right.
Yeah.
Go.
So, in the actual sense, the change is fine. Curriculum can be reformed even after every 2 years, although practically it's supposed to be done after every 5 years. But it can be done when there is need. So with the current political, mantras here and there, there has to be a clear direction. If you say, I want to bring this particular change, what do you actually want to do? To avoid, this of sneaking in political agendas. Like now you're saying the Jubilee administration wanted to take credit. What is this credit that they want to? Is it credible credit, or is it just credit for the sake of it shall be written in history that Kenya's education system was changed during someone and someone's tenure during the Jubilee administration? So the thing is, politics, we cannot separate it from the education system. However, there should be good politics that bring substance to the education system, that our children that go through the system will be able to be compatible and in tandem with what the society needs at the moment.
Very well. And Mwalimu, from what I've listened to you kindly and how you've explained it right from the inception of the whole CBC and how it came to be, I feel to some extent and how things are happening in the country and the many noise, this one speaking this and the other speaking this, it seems to me that we've not accepted and the willingness to let this thing be and rest for once and for all, and say we have CBC and let's see how it's going to be effective. That's something that is not happening in the country. And the people are feeling like this conversation, it's going to continue more and more days to come. Then I think it's wise if the next administration comes in, let's get to scrap it off and begin and going back to the drawing board. Is that an option?
It may be an option, may not be an option, but the problem has been infodemic, misinformation, and disinformation.
Right.
So the noise, some of it is necessary, some of it is unnecessary. But if you check on that kind of noise that is being made, the problem is lack of information. And those who are making noise are not the problem. The problem comes from the initiators of the same, because they did not inform them. Like I was telling you another day here, the parents did not know actually what are their roles in the competence-based curriculum.
Right.
Then midway, they are told, now these are your roles. But at the start of the journey of the CBC, they were never involved and they were never informed. So, and if they are only those who are literate were able to know what was required of them, but majority did not know the scope of the CBC with regard to their roles.
Right.
And that is why they are making all this noise, because it's like now, at the beginning, we were not involved, that we would have our input, and then we would actually know how to prepare ourselves. So that's why now every other person who will come with an idea is easily accepted by those who feel the burden of the competence-based curriculum. But to be very honest with you, Shadrach, is that competence-based curriculum is not bad, in as much as there are certain things that require to be fine-tuned.
Right.
Yeah.
And from you as a stakeholders within the education sector, and we rely on your advice and your capacities, and looking at how Kenya Kwanza puts this whole issue, and weighing some of the words and the statements that are given in relation to the CBC, what can you comment about it?
First and foremost, what I heard from Kenya Kwanza, they just said, we are going to scrap off this education system because it's a burden to the parents, it brings confusion. But that was still abstract. What I was explaining from them, they would say, particularly, if it's a burden, what is the extent of the burden? And how can they remove the burden from the parents? Because realistically, the curriculum needs to be reformed.
Right.
We cannot have a system that was brought into place 20 years ago, and now we have different needs that the society require to meet.
Right.
So the Kenya Kwanza could be they have a point, could be they have a good input. Let them say it. Let them separate their political agenda from the agenda of reforming education. And they would say that, according to us, from our analysis, and for them to achieve that, let them get experts, education experts,
right,
who are going to look into it and then say, okay, well, we are not talking politics, but here we are talking about the welfare of the child and the whole set of Kenya. We are seeing there's a loophole, one, in this content, in the assessment methods, in the evaluation. You know, they point out specifically what is the problem. And they say, okay, well, with this problem, to correct it, we have to go back to the foundation. So that all Kenyans know, actually from where we are bound to fail.
Right.
And of course, if they are able to bring such kind of gist in their discussion, there is nobody who cannot accept
right,
a legitimate issue which is going to affect the entire society. Yeah.
Very well. And also, our worry is post-election. After we are done with the election, what next for the CBC? You know, that is the biggest question that most people have in mind. Looking into, you know, how heated our campaigns can be and how we can do our elections. And from every electioneering cycle, we normally see after elections, things may get up to be heated, but we do not pray to
Yeah,
be so.
exactly.
But the worry of the parents and kids under the current dispensation and looking how things are happening within the CBC, their biggest question they're asking, what next after election with this whole CBC issue?
Well, I do not have a crystal ball, but the reality is it will depend on which government will take over after August 9. But what I would see and I would foretell is that after the elections, I think there is going to be some review on some of the things that are affecting the competency-based curriculum,
right,
which for me as an education expert,
right,
I would wish, whether it is the, whichever side will come into power after August 9, is let them look at the weaknesses of this curriculum. Let us divorce our discussion from politics and partisan, feeling that since I'm not the one who brought it into power and into implementation, let me scrap it off. And even if it's the same administration, let them not force it into our throats. Where there is a problem, let it be checked. Let there be a change. Because like what the CS is saying, well, he has a point by saying that CBC is there to stay. But CBC is there to stay to serve whose purpose? To serve what intentions? Should it just be there to stay like a statue, or just be there to serve the Kenyan child? So let it be there to stay, but staying, serving a specific objective, and the objective is to prepare children for posterity in the society.
Right. Very well. And I love how you're putting it and playing a bit of neutral. You look into both sides and how it can be positively also be rectified if at all there is any sort of problem.
Exactly.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, what we're discussing here in a nutshell, it's about the CBC transition post-election. This is what we're looking into. What will be the way forward after elections with this entire CBC thing? And remember, this is not very first time that we're having this kind of a discussion. We've quite spoken about it specific out from the way there has been a lot of noise and debate and conversation around the effectiveness of the CBC and how it's a reality or a fallacy. But also, Malemo, coming back to you here,
yes,
and the way things are happening to me, we've seen the ongoing constructions of classrooms here and there.
Yes.
And yes, it is like the government is so serious about this issue. And from the way previously we had this kind of a conversation.
Exactly.
And you did mention about some of the barriers and hinders that can be faced. And one of them was a shortage of classrooms. And right now, the government is building close to 10,000 classrooms countrywide. From you, do you feel like we've made strides on our approaches on making sure that this thing is rolled out effectively? And is there light at the end of the tunnel? Is something promising?
Going by the word of the government and the Cabinet Secretary for Education, they are doing a lot. They are doing good work because we've seen on television, they are showing classrooms that are already complete. And that is a good progress. The only challenge is that if you compare the number of the class 6 who will be exiting, that is grade 6 in December, compared with the number of classrooms that are being built, it's going to be a very big challenge because you realize, especially in public schools, wherever you have a class with about 4 streams, which results to around 300 pupils. Now imagine 300 pupils in one classroom. Right. And you know most of public secondary schools do not have adequate space. So you find that in as much as we have the classrooms, still going to be a challenge. The government still has a long way to go. Right. Because if relatively, the number of those that are exiting primary compared to the space that we have in secondary school, it's very, very negligible. The space in secondary school is very small. Right. And other than the brick and mortar strategy they're putting in place, having the classrooms, there's also another problem. What about the human resource, the teachers? Because the government said the junior secondary school will not be domiciled in the primary schools. And the challenge was the infrastructure is not there because junior secondary requires a laboratory. And in primary school, there are no laboratories. And if they are to have laboratories, the cost is going to be very high that the government cannot manage. So that's why the decision was the public primary schools will not have junior secondary. It was only allowed in private schools. We had a negotiation with the government and we said, okay, as the Kenya Private School Association, if our members have the capacity, they should be allowed to have a section of the junior secondary. And we also said, even when someone decides to establish a junior secondary standalone, that should, so
they agreed to it?
Yeah, they agreed to it. So come next year, you will hear of schools that are only junior secondary standalone. Yeah, a school is neither primary nor senior secondary, but it is a junior secondary.
Junior secondary, how many classes does it have?
3.
Class?
Is grade 7, grade 8, and 9.
9.
Yes.
Right.
So now the government has a problem. Apart from the issue of brick and mortar that is constructing the classrooms and laboratories, and even the laboratories that are there will not be able to cater even for the coming junior secondary children. Now coming to the human resource aspect, the government did some step, but for me, from my analysis, that step is very, very inadequate because they promoted teachers who did Bachelor of Education or teaching in primary to secondary schools. But remember, we are getting children getting into junior secondary in 4 streams, in 3 streams, in 2 streams. And remember the age of these children, you know, is they are young and they cannot go to boarding schools. So they will be joining day secondary schools. Now can you imagine a place like Changamu here or a place like Mombasa? How many public schools that have adequate space to accommodate this? So there's a very big challenge other than the classrooms, but even the teachers will be overstretched, to be very honest.
And while I'm listening to your calculations very keenly here, I find a situation like we are still exceeding and postponing the current problems that are within the CBC.
Very true.
And assuming that we are trying to solve them by constructing the new classrooms, to me, and from your explanation, I feel like the ministry kinds of seals one loophole and another comes in.
Exactly.
How are they supposed to handle this issue and making sure that once this thing is rolled out, it will be rolled out effectively now without any sort of culture?
You know, there's a common mantra that says, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Because, you know, this thing, they were to see it from the beginning. When the CBC was being rolled out about 5 years ago, they would look at it 5 years from now, we are going to have this grade 6 transiting to junior secondary. So what do? They were to have a task force that would look into this. But now if you look at even the issue of constructing classrooms, began last year. Now within 1 year, they want to construct classrooms enough to accommodate children exiting from primary, who, if you look at the ratio of those exiting from primary and going to secondary, is a ratio of about even 5 is to 1. So how is it going to be possible? So it is true, they're actually postponing a problem. Because in as much as we have the classrooms, they are being faced with another problem. It's because the infrastructure required in the secondary schools is not classrooms only. Even the laboratories already, if you just do a spot check in the secondary schools, the laboratories are not already enough. And here we're having a whole lot of a new classroom. And remember, even as we have the grade 7 join the junior secondary, we still have the 844 also joining secondary. We shall have 2 groups of Form 1s, so to speak. Form 1 of the 844 and now Form 1 of the junior secondary, which is the grade 7. They are going to need the same facilities for their learning. So they are going to be strained so much.
Very strained.
And the big burden will go to the teachers, of course.
And this whole issue, Mwalimu, I want to understand from also the side of the parents.
Yes.
Where does this leave the entire parent, you know? It sounds to us like, yes, we are in a very deep mess and we seem not to be coming out of it any soon.
I can tell you, Shadrach, the whole system of the Parents Association, because of the Parents Association, it's all in a morass. No one actually understands what's going to happen. Because in the real sense, I was having a conversation with some parents another day, and they were, asking, what is required of us with the junior secondary? You see? What they are told, because there's traditionally they used to, when my kid completes primary school, will choose a secondary school, maybe Alliance, we'll go to Changamwe, we'll choose Maranda, something like that, some sort of schools. But this one, there is nothing like choosing a secondary school. So the biggest question is, how will the grade 7 be enrolled in the junior secondary? That one remains a mystery.
And the ministry has not come clear about it?
Has not come clear because in the first place, even the grade 6 examination, which is going to be done in November this year, it is not a certification examination. It is just a formative examination. There is no certificate on that. And in fact, one of the questions, one of the parents was asking me, what if my child completes grade 6 and for some reason or the other, in as much as the transition is free, is unable to proceed to junior secondary? That means my child will have no evidence that was once in school. Because there's no certificate that shall be awarded. Yeah.
And that one is also a challenge and something that...
A very big challenge, because currently in the 844 system, when someone completes class 8 and does not go to secondary school, has an evidence that I was in school. But now with the current system, there is nothing like an evidence that you show that you are.
So where do we get our first certificate, Mwalimu?
The first certificate is acquired in grade 12.
Okay.
Yes.
So after grade 9? After grade 9,
it's still formative exam. Formative exam is an examination that no certificate issued. So summative exam in the competence-based curriculum is only in grade 12, whereby the children will sit for examination known as Kenya Certificate of Basic Education Examination. It's another variation of a KCSE.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, you're telling me like students going forward, they will be having just one certificate?
Just one for the basic education. Kenya Certificate Basic Education Examination. Instead of KCSE, now it will be KCBE.
And I think it will improve on reduction of number of dropouts. People will be fearing, like, if I drop out from school, I may not have any certificate to show. So I'll be forced to go until grade 12.
Of course, that's the advantage. But sometimes, even if something can be free, but there could be some inevitable circumstances that perhaps may make a child not continue. Because even at the moment, we have free primary education. Not all the children of school-going age are in school. There are other reasons that make them unable to continue. And even in as much as we cross the bridge when you reach there, but there's also a challenge how the children will still transit from grade 9 to senior secondary, because the junior secondary ends at grade 9. And then the transition process from grade 9 to senior secondary is also not known. It's like what we are experiencing right now. So perhaps when you get there, we shall have gotten a solution to how the transition is going to be. But at the moment, it is a whole lot of confusion.
Very true. Right, and we will cross the bridge once we get there, Malemo, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Very well. As we finish also, let's talk a little bit concerning the national examinations. And we do understand that we'll be having how many examinations?
This year we're having 3.
3.
Yeah.
The grade 4 one, is it complete or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We'll have, okay, the national examinations, we have the grade 8, the standard 8 for the 844 who are sitting next month, plus
KCP. That is the normal KCP.
Yeah, the normal KCP. And the 844 KCP, I think even the CBC now has become normal.
Right.
So we have the KCP in March and the KCSE.
Is this the last KCP that we're having?
No.
No.
Last KCP is done next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now this is the penultimate examination for the KCP. So we have KCP, KCSE. Then December, in fact we have 5, not even 3. This year we have 5. The 2 we have in March.
The 2 are in March.
And the 3 in November, December.
So the 3 in November, December, which one are they?
Grade 6. The current standard 7 for the 844. And the Form 3s.
The current Form 3s.
Current Form 3s will be joining Form 4 on the 25th of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, that is, we needed to clear on that. And of course, I do believe schools are also prepared and in line with that. And just to finish up, Mwalimu, on the education and the examination part.
Yeah.
How do you feel school prepared with this education, with these examinations that are coming on board here? And is it easy for them with the much concentration of building classrooms and issues about that as well?
It has not been easy because of time constraints. These terms were so much squeezed, and the teachers are really struggling to cover the syllabus. And in fact, if you look at, leave alone this term that this year that we are already winding up, the coming school calendar is the toughest. Reason being, it starts on the 25th of April, and by November, the teachers should be through the syllabus. There's only 1 week break from one term to the other.
Okay.
Only 1 week break.
So it's going to be a marathon.
It's going to be a really, really marathon. And honestly, completing the syllabus by the teachers, by listening to what they speak, is all going to be a real Herculean task.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, for the students also, it will be so much stressful, don't you think?
In fact, so much. Let us pray, in fact, that these children will not start some, arson issues, so as to ventilate their anger and fatigue. So a lot of guidance and counseling. I can advise the teachers, they need to really do it, because 1 week break is no joke.
Right. Of course, during our time, when you tell us we are going for a 1 week break, you'll have to convince us so well.
Exactly.
But we are so much grateful, Malemo, for your time.
Thank you.
And if somebody wants to meet you, exactly where can they find you, and at which is the school exactly?
My school is still in Mikindani Royal Comprehensive School. And I also have another one at Jomvu, so called Jomvu Royal Comprehensive School. If you don't find me in school, you can find me in the KPSA offices here in Mombasa or Changamwe. Yeah. Right.
Of course, that is Mr. ELISHA MWANGO, the current acting chair, KPSA. Offices located in Changamwe here at Gomo Plaza there, and of course also in Mombasa. And if you want to catch him at school, it's Mikindani Royal Comprehensive School here in Mikindani, and also Jomvu Royal at Jomvu Aldina area. But of course, we are so grateful, Malimo, for coming through.
Thank you.
We do believe that some of this conversation, upon reaching the recipients and the audience,
yes,
it will bring some bit of change.
Exactly, exactly. We hope so.
Right. And on that note, we've come to the end of our entire program this morning. Thank you so much for your viewership, special thanks to my director on the very side, that is William Koti, assisted by Kaka Issa, who is my cameraman here, and the entire crew that helped to set up this nice setup here to have this conversation coming to you live. But remember also, it will be posted on YouTube as well as on Facebook, but I believe it's also live, so you'll have to see it later on at your own convenient time. and let's keep the conversation going. We need to talk about these issues so as we also find solutions into it. Do not sit down and just say and wait for the government to do nearly everything. You do also have a role to play. You can add input either to advise, recommend, or in any way. But in a nutshell, we need to help out in addressing some of these issues. But till tomorrow again, same time, same place, have yourself a nice day. My name is Shadrack Kugega. Let's meet again tomorrow.
Boss TV, where inspiration strikes.